Thank you for taking the time to chat with Dread Central. We really appreciate it. And congrats on your new collaboration with Boom Studio.
Yeah, this is fun.
How do you feel about unleashing it?
Well, it's sort of a complete circle for me. Because when I was a kid, I was a comic book freak. And that's all I read. People always say, what were your favorite books when you were a kid? And I said, I didn't read books. I only read comic books. My friends and I, we used to walk around with big stacks of comics and trade them and read them, under a tree. And so for me now to be back and actually writing them, it's kind of a full circle fun thing.
What was the comic book that scared you the most growing up?
Well, it didn't scare me, but when I was a kid, there were the EC comics were around, Tales from the Crypt and the Vault of Horror and the Witch's Cauldron. And they were, those were really scary, but they were also hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
The art was amazing. And every single one of them had a funny punchline at the end, a great twist ending. I think they were very influential on me. I think that's what I do, right?
And none of them traumatized you too bad?
What?
None of them ended up traumatizing you as a kid?
No, I have this thing, and I have to explain that there's something missing in my brain, I think, that horror doesn't only makes me laugh. I never get scared. People always say to me, oh, after I read your book, I had to leave all the lights on and I locked the doors. And I've never had that feeling. I'll read a Stephen King novel or go to a horror movie. I'm the one that's laughing in the audience. I think horror is funny. I don't know. I don't ever get that feeling.
Well, how does your creative process change when you're writing for adults?
Well, it's, when I write for kids, I try to picture the kids. If I'm doing a middle grade book, I try to picture, 10-year-old kids. And then when you write for adults, you picture adults.
Mm-hmm.
But, and now I feel a lot freer now.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a lot gorier and not have to worry about terrifying kids getting complaint. You know what freed me up? This is true. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it. Do you know the Fear Street movies from last summer? They were on Netflix.
Yes, I do.
They were R-rated.
Oh, yes.
They were R-rated slasher. I've never had anything R-rated in my life. I've never done it. Even my life isn't R-rated. And they were like slasher films. And the fact that I got away with that, and those movies kind of freed me up to think I can do more adult and more horrifying things.
How scary would you say Stuff of Nightmares is going to be?
I couldn't judge. I can't judge. It's like old-fashioned horror. It's sort of like going back to Tales from the Crypt. It's that level of horror.
Yeah,
it's these two mad brothers who are scientists who are trying to create life, who are cutting up corpses and robbing graves, and it's sort of my version of the Frankenstein myth. Oh, thanks, Lucky.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of some Lovecraft. What were some of the other influences behind the project?
Lovecraft? Was never into Lovecraft.
Why not?
I don't know. I never got into it at all. I couldn't tell you one thing about Lovecraft.
What are some of the other inspirations for this book?
My inspirations for horror, my earliest inspiration was Ray Bradbury, the science fiction writer.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually turned me into a reader. Those are the first things I ever read. And then I was a huge science fiction reader when I was 10, 11, 12, older. Robert Sheckley, I read Isaac Asimov, all those people back then. And then later on, Rod Serling was a very big influence as far as horror goes.
Mm-hmm. From your Fear Street books, if you could pick the next ones that Netflix uses to adapt for new films, do you have a preference?
From Fear Street? Well,
Yeah.
there are a couple I would like to see. I think they should do one about the Fear Street cheerleaders.
Hmm.
A whole bunch of cheerleader books.
Hmm.
And also the one I'd love to see, there was this Christmas one called Silent Night, which featured Reva Dalby, whose father owned Dalby department store in Shadyside. And she's mean, well, maybe the meanest character I ever wrote. And I would love to see them do something with her. She was just a horror.
Do you have an idea of who you would cast for her?
No, I never think about that.
You don't think about that kind of stuff?
No, I never do.
So you tell me that not a lot scares you.
People think if you're the author that movie people ask you about casting. Because people always, I get a lot of requests saying, can I be in your next movie? And I'm an actor, can I audition? I have nothing to do with that, of course. You know, movie people don't want the author around. They want you to go away.
Doesn't seem like a whole lot scares you. Do you have any phobias?
Well, I have a lot. Yeah, I have normal adult phobias, but just as far as entertainment goes, nothing. I have a phobia where I cannot jump into a swimming pool.
Why?
I don't know. I'm afraid.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, my grandkids think that's just hilarious. They dive off everything and I have to climb in. And in my whole life, I've never been able to jump into a pool. I always have to climb in.
I mean, maybe there's sharks.
Maybe in the pool?
Yeah. You don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
Do you have a favorite Stephen King book?
Yes, I do. Pet Cemetery.
Why is that?
I just think that's an amazing premise. And I think it is terrifying. And this idea of coming back from the dead, but not being the same. It's terrifying. And I've said this in other interviews. I mean, I love that book. I think I've stolen that plot at least 4 or 5 times.
Yes, I have heard.
Good. Oh yeah.
How does music play a role in your creative process?
No, I'm very eclectic music taste, but no, it doesn't. Probably should more. There probably should, but I'm afraid of any kind of music reference dating the book.
Mm-hmm.
Because 2 weeks later, everyone's forgotten that artist.
Who are you listening to lately?
I listen to a lot of country music.
Yeah.
Now I love country music, and I've been listening. Also, I listen to a lot of classical music, and I'm see, this is bad for my horror image. I'm an opera fan. We have opera subscription, But when you're a horror writer and when you write horror, people they think you're only interested in horror. They think your whole life is about horror. And if I say, well, I live near Lincoln Center and we go to the ballet, that's horrifying to people.
It's scary in its own way.
Yeah,
is there a book of yours that you find has scared kids the most?
No, not that I know of. There are some scenes that have scared kids the most that they bring up to me.
Yeah, like what?
There's a Fear Street. I don't even remember which one it was. A Fear Street scene where a boy puts his hand down a garbage disposal. They turn it on. People remind me of that. And there's in one of the cheerleader books, one of the cheerleaders gets locked in the shower room and all the showers turn on hot and she's like steamed to death. And people remember that scene.
That's pretty brutal.
It is. It's horrible. I could be ashamed.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Peter Stroud?
I spent a day, I feel sad about Peter. I spent a really nice day with him at a library festival. I don't even remember where, some library somewhere down south. And we just had a great time. We spent the whole day at this festival and got to talk. And you lived in my neighborhood. You lived on the Upper West Side. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
That's wonderful.
Then I never saw him again. I just saw him that one day.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe in ghosts?
No.
Do you
I
believe
keep
in
looking,
anything?
you know, God knows I've written enough about them,
Mhm.
but I've never had any kind of encounter or anything like that. There was a friend of mine, her name is Richie Tankersley Cusick, and she wrote horror
Yeah.
back in the 90s, back when we were starting Fear Street. She grew up in New Orleans, and she claimed that there was a ghost of a boy in her kitchen, that she saw him all the time. He had like a silver aura around him. And, but I don't know if she was making that up or not, because that's what we did. We made up stories.
Uh-huh.
I've never had any kind of experience.
What about aliens? Are they out there?
No, I don't
No.
know.
One of my last questions for you is, our readers love to hear recommendations from horror icons. If you could recommend a movie or a book in the horror genre, what would you
Yes.
say that would be?
My favorite horror movie of all time is from 1933. It's called Island of Lost Souls.
Mhm.
And Bela Lugosi's in it. Charles Lawton plays Dr. Moreau on this island. This is the first Dr. Moreau film on this island. And he's experimenting, just like in Stuff of Nightmares. He's trying to turn animals human.
Mhm.
Very similar to what it goes on in my comic books here. And the film is terrifying. Just it's so grotesque. This is true. Back in 1933, when the film came out, it was so upsetting to audiences, they threw up in their seats. You had audiences throwing up from this film.
It doesn't happen anymore.
No, it doesn't. No,
No.
I don't know why, but no.
We're jaded.
Anyway, I love that film.
Perfect. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
This
This
great.
was
Enjoy
really
talking.
wonderful.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. Yes.
Take care.